people want the truth, not just in journalism, but everywhere. And they want to see brands that are open, that are honest, that, are willing to take a risk and be vulnerable in some sense.
Welcome to the Mastering E-commerce Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Eitan Koter, co-CEO of Emmy. In an era of rising acquisition costs and increased competition, this podcast is dedicated to helping you drive sales, engage customers, and build meaningful communities so you can turn passive visitors into active buyers. Now let's get started with the episode. Welcome back, listeners. Today's guest is a full-time founder, Emmy-winning storyteller, and one of the sharpest minds in the intersection of video, AI, and marketing, Justin Ware. Justin is the co-founder and chief revenue officer at Camcorder AI, a platform that's revolutionizing short-form video creation with the power of AI. From building award-winning content in his early days as a journalist, to selling his video marketing agency, to leading innovation across the nonprofit, education, and tech worlds, Justin has always been ahead of the curve. In this episode, we explore how AI can actually make video content more human, why authentic storytelling still wins, and what it really takes to build a company people believe in. Whether you're a creator, a founder, or a marketeer, Justin's insights are going to change how you think about video and entrepreneurship. Justin, how are you? Welcome.
I'm doing very well, Eitan. Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure. Justin, before we dive into the episode, I'd like to think about like 3 words that are most important to you. It can be in your personal life, your business, your beliefs, and why.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a really nice way to frame things up. And it probably didn't take me too long, when you asked me to consider those 3 words. So I think the first one that comes to mind is honesty, right? And, I throw the term authentic and authenticity around quite a bit because it's a big part of what I believe and what we do. And I think really what it boils down to is honesty. Honesty has always meant a lot to me, right? And I think it's a very important trait in everything from elected leaders to business leaders to your colleagues to how you deal with your family and your friends, right? If you're not honest, that leads to many problems down the road, right? So I think honesty is incredibly important. I think fairness is also important. Fairness would be my second word. I just think, understanding, there's a balance and there's things that we all have to give and take, and that's how society works. And fairness is part of that. And then effort is the last word. Hard work, I guess. That's 2 words. So I went with effort instead. And I think effort makes more sense, right? Because, are you really putting something into what you're doing, right? Are you really giving it your best, or are you just trying to get through with the bare minimum, right? So I think those 3 words, honesty, fairness, and effort probably are what I would hope people would say about me and what I value out of people in the world.
Yeah, it feels so natural when you say these words because the way you speak, the way your overall energy, right, just reflects those 3 words. So really, thank you so much for sharing that. And I really loved, inviting you to the episode because I'm all into video as well, as you know. And it's going to be a great exercise to share notes and explore what's happening right now. And you mentioned authenticity, and it seems that everyone talks about authenticity, right? In content and storytelling. What's authenticity for you these days, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a matter of just living honestly, right? Using honesty as sort of a guiding light in everything that you do. And, we are an AI company. So we are an AI video company at Camcorder AI, which means we're obviously applying AI in a lot of different ways. Some of those are generative content, right? But I think there's a difference between, honestly using AI in a way that sort of enhances content versus simply generating fake avatars and pretending those are real people. For example, I've seen a lot of companies right now that are doing avatars and doing like generative AI for UGC, which is interesting because, UGC is user generated content. So if it's a generated avatar, then really you're just kind of taking the user out of it and it's just GC, right? And I think what people connect with is the realness. We know there's a lot of demand for generative AI, especially around brands and agencies. Like a large majority of people who are leading brands and agencies are trying to find more ways to apply generative AI. But at the same time, you've got consumers, the majority of which are saying, I want to see real people. Especially if you're telling me the person is real, I want that person to be real, right? So, with Camcorder AI, what we're doing is we're saying, well, look, let's find ways that we can use AI to get rid of the things that we don't want to do, right? It's that old, there's a meme that I think is based off of like a newspaper clipping that says something along the lines of, I was hoping that AI would do the dishes and laundry so I could write poetry. Not AI would write poetry so I could do the dishes and laundry, right? And I think that's what we're aiming for with, our vision and what we're doing with Camcorder AI is saying, okay, let's eliminate logging. Let's make it so you can easily draft a storyboard. Let's put tools and editors. You can just talk to the editor. You don't need to know a bunch of keystrokes or anything. You can simply say, put a dissolve here, transition there, brighten this clip, add another piece of B-roll here. And you can do that just by typing a phrase into the editor, just like you would ChatGPT, right? All of those things can significantly reduce the amount of time it takes to communicate with video, which allows you to create more video and communicate more with video, which I think is a really powerful medium. So again, for us, I mean, authenticity doesn't mean that you're not using AI to, expedite things and, generate things in some cases. But I think it should be something that allows you to be more authentic in your video storytelling and how you're communicating.
Yeah, so as I understand, the focus is just helping you out with the operational preparation, research, editing side of things, right?
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah.
And just focus more on improve efficiencies in terms of timing, cost, increase capacity, right? Which is obviously very, very important. But in parallel, maintain that authenticity level that is very, very important and what consumers are demanding.
That's it. That's just it. Yeah. I mean, if we're making ads to target consumers, we should probably be more focused on what the consumer is doing versus on the zeitgeist or the trends in the agency world, for example.
Yeah. So you have a really interesting background, obviously starting in journalism and how that's, shaped your approach to video marketing today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, journalism, it should hopefully be at least all about authenticity, right? You should be telling the truth. You should be trying to search for the truth and then deliver that truth to as many people as possible. So that was kind of my underpinnings. Is how I was trained in college. First 6 years of my career were spent as a TV journalist. And that, led into nonprofits and into the brand space. But I think throughout, I've always maintained that, you are just better off focusing on, what you know and what you do well, what you can honestly contribute, as opposed to, trying to, polish up something in the way that is maybe less true or true. I think that's probably why we see so much of that, the explosion around UGC and the creator space and creators producing content and how that's become a real, a real viable career choice for some people who are really good in that space. Because again, if you have someone who looks and feels real, that adds so much to a brand's message, right? I think, you said you're working in the shoppable video space, right? I mean, obviously real voices there, real influencers are a really powerful marketing vehicle. And video is a great way of delivering that. So, I think, again, going back to my early days and, in journalism and being all about sort of the, exposing the truth and delivering the truth, to now where it's like, well, people want the truth, not just in journalism, but everywhere. And they want to see brands that are open, that are honest, that, are willing to take a risk and be vulnerable in some sense. I think brands that, are really themselves and really develop a personality and maintain consistency around that personality are very successful in their marketing. And I think authentic video is just another really good tool to deliver that realness that brands need to communicate and resonate with audiences.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So for brands out there listening to our episode right now, just deciding to zoom in and be more focused around video as a marketing tool, what's the strategy that you will implement, with new brands or trying to launch marketing campaigns on videos? What are some of the video types, amount of content? What is the overall strategies they usually have in place?
The first thing I would do for any brand is think about how we can open a window into their day-to-day, right? Their daily operations. Some of the best content I've seen, whether it's from a major Fortune 100 or a small DTC startup and everything in between, is when the founder is out and available. And again, I don't want to overuse the word vulnerable because I think it might have a bad reputation to it, but just they're real, they're themselves, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't work for every brand. Sometimes you have really good leaders who are not great in front of the camera. So there's other ways to do it. But I think, how can you catch people on an almost daily basis with the realness of your day-to-day operations, the struggles you're facing, the victories you're winning, the challenges you have up ahead. everyone has those. Everyone has challenges. Everyone has victories. Everyone has things they're really struggling with on a day to day. So when they see that from the brands that they support in a really open and transparent way, I think that's a really great way to connect on a deeper level with someone and really kind of build that loyalty with a brand. And this could be anything from a toothbrush to a automaker, right? From Mercedes-Benz to Crest. If you have a real window into your operations, if you get to know the leadership of a company, if you get to understand their personality, if you know what they believe in because they're subtly telling you on an almost daily basis, then that's a really good way to create brand loyalty with an audience.
Interesting. You were already referring to kind of just build in public kind of thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Build in public, right? Yeah, it's something we try to do, and time is of the essence. So we do as much as we can. But yes, I think build in public is really smart. I think that's, again, any way you can connect yourself in an authentic way with the audience that you're trying to target. I think that builds both short-term and especially long-term, brand connection. And video, because you can hear, you can see, it's such a great storytelling vehicle, is probably one of the best ways to make that connection if you have the personalities in your organization and company to do that.
Yeah. Obviously, these videos are less on the editing side of things, right? More just open a camera just to deliver a few updates and messages. And if it's too polished, it just lose focus and lose attraction, right? So it needs to be really, really simple and just showing real life experiences. Well, what else?
Oh, yeah, I think so. And I also think, both and, right? I mean, I've built companies around really that, sort of grassroots of authentic amateurish video, right? And, a previous company, we hired college students to produce, scores of video for an institution. So that every day they had new content going out to alumni and prospective students. And it performed better when it was more rough around the edges. But I've also seen some really good, like 5-minute, almost like mini brand documentaries, right? Talking about the founder and how their mother got them involved and inspired them to do this. And, in that case, it was pretty polished. It was fairly high end. So I think you're right. I think, the more believable, rough around the edges is really good. And there's no reason not to post something just because it isn't polished. But at the same time, I think it's the message and the intent behind the content and that authenticity that really matters most.
We are still on the short form vertical type of videos, or maybe you want to address also some of the 16:9 types of video, which is mostly YouTube, mostly long form.
Yeah, I'm both, hopefully, right? That's it's one of the features of our platform is, being able to click a button and go from 16:9 to portrait. Best case scenarios, you can do both and, right? Where you have whenever you create a video, you've got 3 or 4 different versions. You've got a 16:9, you've got a square, you've got a portrait, because it really depends on the channel. If you're viewing on a mobile device, you probably want that to be a portrait, right? Just because you're using the full screen then. Whereas if you're at home and it's a CTV ad, obviously you want that to be something that's 16:9 because that's going to fit, your 65-inch television in the family room. And so I think it really depends on the medium, probably the audience too. I know there's different, age has some factor in that, but I think more than anything else, it's the device. What device they're on, that should determine the aspect ratio of your content.
Yeah. Obviously, a lot of brands understand the power of video, right? But what are the major objections that you hear when you're pitching video?
Well, it's time consuming, right? I don't think there's any question that when it comes to conversions and engagement and every other metric you can track, video, all things being equal, performs better than other forms of content. But up until this point, it's been extremely time consuming, especially if you are doing authentic video communication. To go out and do a day-long shoot, it could take 2 days just to log that content and organize it, right? So, what we're trying to tackle is all of those bottlenecks so that you can go from, instead of having a staff member, an intern, or someone log content for 12 hours, you upload to a platform that does it for you, right? And then you can start just writing scripts, and then you can start drafting content. And hopefully the AI can help you draft that content, right? Which is also what Camcorder AI does. So that I know my founder, Philip, for example, his main motivation for doing this was working for companies like Media Math and going to customers and saying, well, let's A/B tests. And it's great, where are the different variants of this content? And they would have like 2 pieces of content. I said, well, that's not going to do much for us. So what we want to be able to do is scale it up so you can have 50 or 60 pieces of somewhat similar content, swap out hooks, swap out CTAs, maybe have a different actor or a different graphic or whatever, and just tell the platform to do that. I don't even have to make those edits. Just simply say, okay, here's the template. Here's what we want. I want you to give me 12 different versions and change these things out, right? And it would take quite a bit of time to do that manually. But if you're able to do that, with AI, again, you still have real authentic video, but you're using AI to remix that for you and give you all these different versions. So yeah, I mean that's been true of not just in this current moment, but back when I was working in higher education and the nonprofit space, especially. They knew video is powerful, but it cost them $5,000 to produce a single video. With the budgets they have, that's just not going to happen. And that's not even. And then there's time. There's their own staff time, so that actually makes that video even more expensive. So if you can reduce the amount of time, that friction where time and resources are required to produce video, then the sky's the limit, because we know it's powerful, we know it's effective.
Yes, yes. I wonder, what's the next wave, because those tools are becoming so easy to work with, right? And obviously, you're working directly with the brands, you're working with agency, I believe, and they have internal teams, or they're using some external expert providers just to manage those tools. And it seems that a lot of companies will manage and will have access to these kind of tools, right? So what do you it just moves so fast, right? You mentioned these UGC. Today you can just upload a picture of a product, select an avatar, and just a full UGC video just explaining everything. In China, I saw also like AI avatars launching real-time live events, right? And they are responding to questions, and it looks amazing. I don't know if you had a chance to see that.
Yeah, I mean, the shoppable video space, I mean, live shopping, for example, is huge in Asia.
Yeah.
And just starting to catch on here, I think. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that, and like how much of it will be automated with avatars. I just keep going back to consumers. Like I said, when consumers are polled, the majority of them across every demographic, this is not like, old versus young divide. Gen Z is no different than Gen X or boomers in this case. If something is presented to them as a real person, they want it to be a real person, right? So, I mean, yeah, it's like like everyone makes jokes about, the Temu this or the Temu that. And I guess, the Temu version of live shopping might be a fake person, right? And I'm sure there's some value in that, and I'm sure there's some return on that. So it'll be interesting to see if consumers continue to say, no, we really do want to see real people, which is what they're saying right now. I suspect that other trends, in the world, not necessarily related to brands or consumer products, but politics, for example, I have a hard time believing consumers are going to become more comfortable with deepfakes over the next 5 or 10 years, right? Because I think in other ways it's going to be very problematic, especially for politics. So, we're kind of betting on there's going to still be a big chunk of people who really want to see real, and we want to use tools to accelerate and scale up real video storytelling.
Yes. I mean, one of the key, I think, things to understand is that we talked a lot about specific video, how to craft it, how to create storytelling around it, how to quickly edit it. But there is a content strategy that is like, if you zoom out, it's related to the stage of the company, which phase are they in their launch cycles, right? If they're launching a new product, or themselves they're a new company, what kind of content they are producing on an ongoing basis, which makes sense, right? So, I mean, obviously, when you're just starting out, you cannot just push products all day, right? You need to create some kind of a relationship building. What are your thoughts in terms of this, like high level, more holistic view on the overall strategy, just totally related to the life cycle of the product or the company itself?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like, again, telling the story of who you are and why you're doing what you're doing, right? It's interesting when we talk to investors, for example, because we're in the midst of a fundraising round right now, and a really good and common question is, why are you doing this? Like, I know what you're building, but why does it matter to you? Like, what drives you to do this? And I think it's similar for a lot of consumers, right? Like I said, they can go out and they can buy any suitcase or rollerboard, right? They can go out and they can buy any vehicle they want. They can go out and they can buy any kind of skincare products they want, right? And the product itself matters to some degree, but I also think and we know this, right? There's a personality around certain brands that attract people more than maybe the assets of the actual product itself, right? Nike obviously has been just a master class of marketing over the past half century. And, the ways it's become more of a personality and who you are than it is the product itself, So I think that's the key. It doesn't mean you can't ever talk about your product, but I think, when you do, and you talk about why, right? Like, why do we build this feature, or what led to it, or what did a customer ask you about, or, what have you personally experienced that has led you to say, I really wish I had this tool, right? Like, someone will often say, if you weren't doing Camcorder AI, what would you be doing? I say, I really have no idea, because I would need Camcorder AI to go data things I want to do, because what I want to do is scale authentic storytelling. And that's why I'm here doing this. That's why I'm doing Camcorder AI, because I think this tool is necessary to help people tell more authentic stories in a more scalable way. And I think, helping people see that from a brand, and, mixing in your product from time to time too, is a really good balance for storytelling.
Yeah. I'd like to learn more about your startup journey, about your leadership style. The Camcorder is obviously not your first startup. I mean, why you're so passionate about just doing this continuous innovation and iteration and launching new ventures?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been the idea guy, right? So for me, whether it's in an entrepreneurial role or in a more typical role, whenever I'm tasked with creating something new, a new process, a new system, a new platform, a new product, a new piece of technology, that's when I get really excited, right? Because it's like, okay, this doesn't exist. There's a problem here that we can solve. And we've got an idea for how to do that. So let's put it together and see if it works. And, anytime that I'm not in an entrepreneurial role, I've, thought, well, I shouldn't say, I think I've always been an entrepreneurial, but it could just be a standard full-time role, but I'm trying to push something new within an organization, or it is just a straight up startup, right? Where the more classic entrepreneurial role. And that's when I'm most alive. That's when I'm most excited, is, when we have a problem to solve. We don't yet have the solution, but we've got some real good ideas about what might be a solution. And then we have a team and the resources to actually go chase that and put it together and solve a problem and advance things. That's why I love being in this space. That's why I've started multiple companies. That's why, even again, if it is a more traditional role that I'm in, I still take that entrepreneurial mindset to my work every day.
Nice. So there is obviously the ideation phase, probably market research, then a product market fit process, right? Agility and team building, validation. What type of role do you take in all these activities? Are you more the product side, customer side, marketing, or any of the above?
Yeah, definitely more on the customer side. However, we're a small company, and because, we are very customer feedback driven. So I also have a product role as well. Like, I'm a product advisor. Like, Philip, my co-founder, is head of product. He's the product guy. He's done it at a lot of different places before. He's very good at it. And, my job is that validation piece, right? Part of that problem solving is going out and getting customer feedback. We've been really active in that, especially in early 2025, because we started, positioning some new, pivoting to some new features and a new ICP, and it's gone really well. And the reason why it's gone well is because we listen. I mean, I think it's an interesting thing. Like, to be in this entrepreneurial space, you need an idea and you need to have a passion and pursuit for that idea. And then you need to be ready and willing to change that idea, or at least adjust that idea very quick, right? Because you're going to put stuff out in the wild. People are going to give you feedback. Some of the things you think might be proven, others will be disproven. And you have to be willing to adjust, still keep that true North Star, keep your overall vision, but change the steps for how you get there, deviate maybe from that initial product map, deliver people what they need so they start using the platform, and give you more feedback. And then you can iterate on top of that. So yeah, my role is sales, my role is marketing, my role is account management, and all of those things involve a product element to it. And that's why I'm able to advise on product, even though, again, my co-founder, Philip, is absolutely the head of product for our company.
Nice. So obviously, don't fall in love in your product, right? I mean, you mentioned changing your ICP, right? Doing whatever. That agility is like so fundamental, right? For any founder, right? People think that you have this aha moment and you just keep grinding until you achieve that. But no, this is changing over time, and it's fundamental for success. By the way, not only in startups, I see this a lot also on the brand side, right? They're using a lot of these lean startup or product market fit type of strategies, which are very, very powerful. So tell us more about Camcorder. When did you start? Where are you today?
Yeah, Camcorder AI was officially launched in November of 2023, and I came on as a co-founder last summer, so summer of 2024. We had some pretty good success in 2024 in the enterprise space, adding a really big brand. We were working with Microsoft and the Democratic National Convention, and that was great. However, again, as we had those conversations with more and more users and more customers, we began to see that, okay, this is less a live streaming clipping tool and more of an actual full suite editor that can take your content, add it to a library, organize it for you, draft video content for you, put it in an editor, optimize that content for you, and then allow you just to produce a lot more video content. And so, I sort of got there at a time where we were in this pivot of moving from big enterprise deals to something in between, where we can still do enterprise deals for large organizations, but we also have a $49 a month subscription for an individual video editor and can be incredibly valuable for that individual video editor. So yeah, I've been here for about a year now. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm very excited about where we're at right now. We're in this fundraising round, and once we close that, who knows, right? I mean, this is the type of thing where, again, we'll be able to do everything that, like CapCut, which at the moment is not doing so well because of their terms of service. We can do everything CapCut does, plus everything like a Air.ink or a Recharm or a Coactive, like a video library tool does, all in one platform for less money than what those platforms do. So, that's sort of our journey, is starting off as like this, thinking we're going to be this big enterprise solution for major news organizations and big brands right out of the gates. And the funny thing is, we probably will still get back to that. Like, once we get a really strong base of support, once we add more and more features, there's no reason you couldn't build a plugin for Camcorder AI and drop it right on top of Shopify or Amazon or Rontbell or something like that. And we could be really valuable in, helping brands spin up video content across those platforms. But at the same time, we can be great for a boutique creative agency that just needs to really organize, the content for 10 different clients and scale their video and double their margin, right? Because they're not spending as much time they're just not spending as much time creating video content. So that's kind of been the journey, and it's been interesting. Like I said, that flexibility of going from, we think we're this, well, maybe we're not, maybe we're this, and now maybe we add a little bit of this, and here we are, and it's better than we could have imagined a year ago. Is a good spot to be in.
Yeah. It's interesting because it sounds very similar to our Vimy, to our journey as well. I mean, we started with very large enterprise customers. They're still on our backlog. And then we launched this SaaS, kind of a long tail, as you say, 49, 149, 299, right? And it's like a different beast, right? A different marketing, different type of customers. And it's more product-led growth. It's more like self-service onboarding. It's like the whole culture of the company needs to adapt. And it was a really, really interesting process. Yes. And today we are in Shopify, and it's really sounds similar. I totally understand why you did this move. And first, wish you all the best and good luck with the fundraising, and obviously, smart use of money thereafter. So, yeah. So, how do you go to market for with Camcorder?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's that cultural shift within a company going from enterprise to the sort of, subscriber model. So we've still been doing just a lot of warm connection outreach, thought leadership, sort of organic content marketing. And that's led to some nice early growth for us, especially after the release of our new features in spring of 2025. And then, once we get to the point where we're more well-funded, then we do more of a broad scalable marketing strategy, right? And do a lot more of that cold outreach, get ourselves out in front of, Facebook audiences, AdWords, things like that. So, it's still very one-to-one. I mean, it's almost like an enterprise strategy to get us rolling with the subscribers, and then word of mouth. We've had a lot of, the good thing is when people use our platform, they love it. So we get a lot of word of mouth. Like, a lot of times we're getting new leads in every day from current users who have said, "Hey, I talked to this person. They need what you have. Do a demo for them, sign them up, that type of thing." So very organic, very grassroots at the moment, right? Very bootstrapped still, because this is our first fundraising round. So we are still very bootstrapped, and growing that, incrementally. But then what we want to be able to do is pour some fuel on the fire and do a more robust marketing push to scale our growth. And, fundraising can help with that.
Sure. And what's the type of like ICP you're targeting? Is like brand, mid-size, small brand, or what type of defining your personas?
Yeah, number one right now is creative agencies, right? Because creative agencies, like a perfect use case for us is any customer that has a lot of real footage and content and needs to produce a lot of video out of that content and needs to find a way to do it more efficiently. So obviously creative agencies are a perfect fit for this, right? Just our library tool alone, some creative agencies are buying it just for that tool because, when a client comes back and says, hey, creative agency, do you remember that shoot we did on Venice Beach 2 years ago? And there was that woman running with the German Shepherd on the beach. Can you find me those clips?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, that could take a whole day to uncover that if it's not top of mind, you don't have a good structure. But with Camcorder AI, you just simply type Venice Beach, woman running on beach, German Shepherd, and all of those clips will appear within a matter of seconds, right? So for creative agencies, we are a slam dunk. We will increase their margin, period. Just plug us in right away and you'll find a way to save time and money. Then we do want to move, into the brand space. We do have some smaller brands, like some DCC organizations that are using us as well. And, again, as we spin these up and things become more automated, that's when we feel like we're ready for that enterprise play, which is now essentially, right? Once we have funding, we've got all the foundation for those tools built. Then we can move into the big brands and be their video engine that, can take them from maybe, 5 or 10,000 pieces of content per month to 1 million pieces of content per month.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wonderful, Justin. Super interesting. So how people can find you and Camcorder?
Yeah, camcorder.ai. We are online there. I'm on LinkedIn. And if you search Justin Ware, especially if you search Justin Ware and Camcorder, I'm definitely going to pop up. Those are probably the best two ways. I think LinkedIn and our website itself. Drop me an email. I'm justin@camcorder.ai. So, feel free to ping me if you have any questions, comments, or want to talk about things.
Perfect. Anything else you want to add?
No, I just really appreciate the conversation. Great questions. And, it's always fun talking with fellow video experts in the space.
Great. Justin, I wish you all the best. Good luck again with fundraising and keep grinding, keep it off. Okay, amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the end of this episode. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe so you won't miss any of our future content. Explore Vimmy, the video commerce platform that includes live shopping, shoppable video, and social commerce capabilities. Visit Vimmy at www.vimmy.net. We appreciate your support and look forward for bringing you more valuable insights in our next episode.